Hello, everyone. So we're up to chapter 9. I wasn't here for the past 8 weeks, so can someone tell me what has happened in chapter 1? Just chapter 1.
So I think this was preceding Samuel, so the birth of Samuel. So it was speaking of his mom.
What's his mum's name? Hannah?
Is
Yeah.
that? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I had it right.
So Hannah was...
Yeah. So she was. Now I don't remember the husband's name, but she was one of like two wives, and like one of them it was like sort of similar to what happened with like Rachel and Leah. So where one of them was basically giving birth a lot, and like she was like seemed to be barren, but obviously she made a choice not to discourage or go against God. In fact, she was honestly ceasing in prayer, and she was actually seeking to ask God, if you provide this for me, I will dedicate my son to you. Like, I will give my son to you. And, well, like, after that, he literally showed that she literally gave her son Samuel to the temple, and, like, he was able to learn off, like, definitely the priests and rabbis.
Spot on. Yeah. So Hannah was barren. She gave birth to Samuel, and she dedicated Samuel to the temple. And the person who was taking care of him was Eli the priest. And he had two wicked sons, Hophni and Phinehas. And they were both really evil and corrupt. And they were actually taking from the temple's offerings, and they were eating from it rather than burning it as a sacrifice. During this time, the Philistines defeated Israel. So they actually killed 34,000 in total, 34,000 Israelites. And they became really devastated. They felt, and up until this point, it's only been judges in Israel. There was no ruler, there was no one to tell them exactly what to do, although the judges were sort of in charge, but not as much as a king. The Ark of the Covenant was stolen by the Philistines, and pretty much everywhere the Philistines took this Ark of Covenant, it was plaguing that place. So I think after 7 months, they finally returned the Ark of Covenant to the Israelites. And fast forward to chapter 8, Samuel is a bit older now, and he has sons of his own, and they were appointed as judges as well. But they were wicked, and pretty much because of that, the Israelites were pleading for a king. They're like, we need someone, like, we've been devastated by the Philistines, 34,000 people died, the Ark of Covenant. We need someone like the other countries, other nations. They all have a ruler. We want a king like the other countries. And even though God warned against it and Samuel warned against it, he still pleaded and he still agreed that he will give a king to Israel. So that's the backstory, and now we're going to go into how that happens, pretty much. So can someone read from verse 1 to 7, please, including 7.
I'll start. Sorry, the thing was a bit bad. There was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zerah, the son of Becharash, the son of Apiath, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. And he had a choice and handsome son whose name was Saul. There was not a more handsome person than he among the children of Israel. From his shoulders upward he was taller than any of these people. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. And Kish said to his son Saul, please take one of the servants with you and arise. Go and look for the donkeys. So he passed through the mountains of Ephraim and through the land of Shalisha, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shalem, and they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. When they had come to the land of Zoph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, come, let us return, lest my father cease caring about the donkeys and become worried about us. And he said to them, look now, there is in this city a man of God, and he is an honorable man. And all that he says surely comes to pass. So let us go there. Perhaps he can show us the way that we should go. Then Saul said to his servant, But look, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread in our vessels is all gone, and there is no present to bring to the man of God. What do we have?
Thank you. So, we're introduced to two characters. There's a man called Kish. He's from the tribe of Benjamin, which is one of the smallest tribes in Israel. And he has a son called Saul. So this is the first time we're introduced to Saul. And pretty much his dad, Kish, he had some donkeys that were lost, and he said, can you help me find these donkeys? And he said, take one of the servants, he's saying to Saul, take one of the servants and go look for these donkeys. And it mentions a few names, Shalisha, Shalim, all these places. I actually Googled it. It would have taken them about 3 days worth of walking, and they were covering an area that was about 40 by 20 kilometers. So, and also in the area they were walking, it was in a frame, which is very terrainy, very mountainy. So just imagine pretty much they were in the Blue Mountains looking for some donkeys. It wasn't easy, pretty much. And during this time as well, it says that this will be later on, but they also ran out of food. So they were running out of resources, and they would have been tired and exhausted. And what did Saul say? What did Saul want to do after being exhausted? Someone else besides Albert. I'll give you a clue. It's in verse 5. So he was about to give up. What did Saul say? Yeah? So he's pretty much saying, my dad's not going to care about these donkeys. He's going to care about us more. So let's go back. Like, that's it. Like, we've been here for 3 days walking. Like, we're tired. We ran out of food. I think it's we should call it. But what did the servant say? So the servant suggested, hold on, wait, let's try one more thing. There's this guy, a holy man, and we should go to this holy man and he will help us find these donkeys. So, contemplation is that if Saul was by himself, maybe he would have given up the search, and he would have probably not even made it 3 days, probably would have given up after 1 day. So there was a purpose by having two people, and this theme is seen throughout the Bible. So the apostles were sent 2 by 2. It's similar to marriages, friendships, and having an accountability partner. So by having someone with you, the other person can encourage you. So if one person is weak, one person is losing hope, the other person can bring them up and encourage them to keep going. And that's sort of the purpose of a marriage as well. So if someone is, say, they're giving 20%, the other person can compensate, they give 80%. And a friendship as well. Sometimes you might have a bad day at work, your friend can cheer you up, things like that. So, can I get someone else to read 8 to 14, please, including 14?
And the servant answered Saul again and said, Look, I have here at hand 1/4 of a shekel of silver. I'll give that to the man of God to tell us our way. Formerly in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he spoke, Thus, come, let us go to the seer, for he who is now called a prophet was formerly called a seer. Then Saul said to his servant, Well said, come, let us go. So they went to the city where the man of God was. As they went up to the hill to the city, they met some young women and going out to draw water, and said to them, Is the seer here? And they answered them and said, Yes, there he is, just ahead of you. Hurry now, for today he come to the city because there is a sacrifice of the people today on the high place. As soon as you come into the city, you will surely find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterwards, those who are invited will eat. Now therefore go up, for about this time you will find him. So they went up to the city. As they were coming into the city, there was Samuel, coming out towards them on his way up to the high place.
Thank you. So they went to this seer, which was pretty much a prophet. And we don't know who this prophet is yet, but Book of Samuel, so we might actually know. Saul's saying we should give him something. Like, we can't just go to this guy, ask for help, and then not give him anything. Let's give him a quarter of a shekel. That's all I have left, because we ate all our food. And after doing some calculations, a quarter of a shekel is actually $5.30 in today's money, which is nothing. That's not even just a cheeseburger, actually, $4.95. So he was pretty much going to pay him nothing. That's all they had. We sometimes treat God the same way. So when we seek God for something, we feel like we owe God something. Like, we have to, I need to pass this exam. Let me go to church 5 times this week instead of 4. And it's not bad to do that, but I don't think God works that way. He's not concerned with our payment. And you'll see what happens when he finally meets this prophet, that he doesn't actually take anything, but rather he gives him something. Rather, what God wants is a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart, as Psalm 51 says. So he wants you to go, and he wants you to pretty much cry and show that you have sinned and be repentant. That's what he wants. He doesn't care about what you give so much. And this sort of alludes to chapter 1, when Hannah wept bitterly for a son after her prayer and vowed to God her prayer was answered. So Hannah knew what to do. She didn't have to give anything besides Samuel, but she didn't have to give any monetary or like donations or anything. All she had to do was pray to God and cry, and then her prayer was answered. And so they went into this city where Samuel was, and he's setting up a banquet, like a big dinner, and is inviting Saul and his servant to this dinner. So let's read verses 15 to 20, please.
Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear the day before Saul came, saying, "Tomorrow about this time I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him commander over my people Israel, that he may save my people from the hand of the Philistines, for I have looked upon my people, because their cry has come to me." So when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, "There he is, the man of whom I spoke to you. This one shall reign over my people." Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate and said, "Please tell me, where is the seer's house?" Samuel answered Saul and said, "I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let you go and will tell you all that is in your heart. But as for you, but as for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not be anxious about them, for they have been found, and on whom is all the desire of Israel. It is not on you and on all your father's house."
Thank you. All right. How are the turntables? So, they lost the donkeys. So Kish, we just saw son, he lost, I think it was 3 donkeys, and he sent Saul on this long mission, walking around for 3 days with his servant, trying to find these donkeys. And where does Saul end up? He ends up finding Samuel, the prophet. And Samuel, the day before, or just before this, God was telling him, this Benjamite is going to come to you, and you're going to anoint him as the king of Israel. So see how God turns the bad into good. So it was obviously devastating in that time. That's probably like your car, donkeys. So you pretty much lost all your whole fleet of cars. and you're trying to find it, and on your way to find it, you end up being king of Israel. Same thing with Hannah. So the bad, Hannah was barren, and the good is that she gave birth to Samuel, who was a prophet. So sometimes when we're living like in this world in the present, we only see what we have before us. We only see, okay, there's something bad happened here. I lost something, but we don't realize that it's probably going to lead up to something good. And God is known for turning the bad into good things. So we shouldn't despair straight away, but rather you should trust the process and trust in God. And here's some good examples as how God turned the bad into good. So also, we sometimes can get impatient, lose faith, or lose focus. So when Peter, the disciple, was walking on water, he was losing his faith, and that's what made him fall in the water. And when Moses led the Israelites out of slavery, so they finally got free, and they saw all these miracles, all the plagues, all of this thing. But even then, when they were in the wilderness, they were saying, you should have left us in Egypt. We could have died there, and we could have had all the fat food and nice food and gotten buried in Egypt, rather than freeing us and going to this desert, and now we're starving. But they didn't see what was going to come. They didn't see the good. They were just stuck in the present on what was happening that was bad. So even though you might have bad things, don't be so focused on it, but rather look forward and expect that God is going to change it. And sometimes it might take months, sometimes it can take years. It took 40 years for Israel. Also, by having that second person with you, in for example, his servant, or in a marriage or a relationship or a friendship, that second person can sort of hold you accountable and remind you of the end goal. So you might find yourself weak, and without that second person reminding you that God is gonna make things better, you probably will give up. So that's the benefit of having someone with you. Can we read 21 to 27? So this is the last 7 verses.
And Saul answered and said, am I not a Benjamite, or the smallest of the tribes of Israel? My family, the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin. Why then do you speak like this to me? Now Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the hall, and had them sit in the place of honor among those who were invited. There were about 30 persons. And Samuel said to the cook, bring the portion which I gave to you, of which I said to you, set it apart. So the cook took up the thigh with its upper part and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, here it is, and what was kept back? It was set apart for you. Eat for until the time it has been kept for you, since I said I invited the people. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they had come down from the high place, Samuel spoke with Saul on the top of the house. They arose early, and it was about the dawning of the day that Samuel called to Saul on the top of the house, saying, get up, that I may send you on your way. And Saul arose, and both of them went outside, he and Samuel. As they were going down to the outskirts of the city, Samuel said to Saul, tell the servant to go ahead of us. And he went on, but you stand here a while, that I may announce to you the word of God.
Thank you. So that was the end of the chapter. So just a quick summary, what's happened so far. Kish, which is Saul's dad, he lost some donkeys, and he sent Saul to find these donkeys with a servant. And they were lost for 3 days, and when they were about to give up, they finally thought, all right, let's go to this prophet or this seer, which was Samuel, and let's go and ask him where we can find these donkeys. And they went to him, and rather than helping him find the donkeys, he's pretty much getting ready to anoint Saul as king. So he sends them up to this high place where there's a banquet, and he gives them the seat next to him. So it says had them sit in the place of honor, which is pretty much the seat right next to the host of a banquet. And he gives him the best cut of meat. So, I don't know, drumstick or whatever it was, but it was a really nice piece of meat. And there was 30 people there, so they probably were cut because, I don't know, maybe they know Samuel. They're like, oh, why does this random guy get the good cut? But anyways, he pretty much, rather than like having the bad experience of losing the donkeys, gets turned into this really nice banquet. He gets fed really well because they would have been starving after walking for 3 days. And we'll see what's about to happen. So, some people also say the reason why he sort of exalted Saul was to sort of test him, just make sure like how is he going to react to like this honor before he crowns him king. But we don't know for sure if that's true. But up until this point, we've seen Saul is quite a humble person. He's even though he's this really big guy, he stands out of the crowd. He's actually from a fairly well-off family, even though the tribe of Benjamin is small. But he's still somewhat very humble. And when Samuel says you're going to be the king of Israel, he says, "But I'm the least of the tribe of Benjamin and the smallest family in the tribe." So he's obviously showing humble qualities. But for those who know, it doesn't stay like that forever. He's going to change. So I have a question. Do you think Saul becoming king is what led to his demise and eventual suicide? What do you guys think? So if he wasn't king, do you think he would have turned out the same? And why?
I would say probably not. He became king because of God. He won battles and achieved and got success because of God. And then he took that on himself and didn't give any of the glory to God. And that's where the downfall was. If he didn't get any of that, then maybe he could have just stayed like a humble layman like everybody else. And his relationship with God would have been different, but maybe he wouldn't have fallen from such a high place.
Okay, so you're saying he could have still been humble. He could have still given the credit to God for all his victories, but he didn't. But do you think it was easier if he wasn't king? What do you guys think?
I think it's just a common occurrence. I think especially when it comes to people being given power, or like what I was mentioning before, when you're given great things from God, obviously this was bestowed from Samuel, which was given by the Lord. I think it's just more of the fact that, like what George was saying, he received these things, but then in a way he faced a whole lot more temptations because of it. And obviously no one, it's hard to know if he just lived his normal life, what would have happened. Perhaps it would have been the same. Maybe he would have been given another honor, or he might have been given another victory by God, and maybe he let that get to his head. But all I know is in everything, the enemy, the devil, he works in such a different way, such a smart way, that we must always be prepared. And I think in terms of the story of Saul, I think when you're given that opportunity, it's not just something good, but it could also be a burden as well. So you have to always seek God. You have to always seek Him in everything. So in terms of Woody, it definitely could have happened. He definitely could have fallen, but it was just more about the fact that he did receive such a gift from God, but he needed to from that gift he needed to use that to actually stay with God no matter what. So even if he's received this, he still needs God. That he should be the same humble person even as king, and sometimes that could even be harder. Like that's why you need to pray, probably even more. Like that's what I think.
Yeah, spot on. I actually didn't agree with that until I read this quote from Saint John Chrysostom. So he's pretty much summarizing quote. He's saying Saul didn't actually want to be king. Like when Samuel told him you're going to be king, he's like I'm the smallest guy from my tribe, like not me, wrong guy. So if he didn't want to be king and becoming king caused him to do all this sin, can you really blame him for it? But sometimes if we're put in a position like say service, like someone tells you you're going to serve and you say I don't want to serve, and then say you do serve and then you serve but you're not doing it like fully, you're doing it half-heartedly, or you're not really putting in effort, like you sort of think, oh, it's not really my fault because I didn't even want to serve to begin with. So that's pretty much what he's saying. But what St. John Chrysostom says is this is a poor excuse and it's dangerous. But instead of saying that, we should use the favor that God has given us, and we should actually try to improve ourselves, because God has esteemed you and He's made you like worthy to serve, and you have a higher responsibility. So rather than sort of using it as an excuse because I didn't want to do it, but you should actually try to improve yourself. So a few take-home lessons is having two people in any situation always allows for both parties to have patience, faith, and focus, and to be able to persevere through struggle and hardship. So if Saul didn't have that servant with him, he would have given up on the search for the donkeys. He probably wouldn't have become king. We don't know how God works, but all we know is that having that servant there helped him to persevere and push through. We should remember what Saul's character was like now, because further in the story we're going to see how it changes. And actually, because he was so humble, in the next chapter you'll see that God's Spirit was able to dwell inside Saul because of his humility. So he sort of left space for God, but we'll see that also change. And the last lesson is, by losing something, which as Saul lost the donkeys, losing something is not always a bad thing, because in the end it might lead to something better, and God will answer your prayers without you even asking. So actually when Saul went to Samuel, he didn't even tell him about the donkeys, but Samuel just said, don't worry, the donkeys are found, come to my house, we're going to eat, and then he anoints him as king later on. And just one more verse is in Psalm 37, verse 4. It says, delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. So by Saul caring about going to find this prophet, he didn't actually ask for the donkey, but the donkeys were found and that was given to him. So delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desire of your heart. Glory be to God forever. Amen. Does anyone want to add anything?
I have a question. So, you know how initially the plan was not to have a king over that nation, is that right? It kind of sounds like that wasn't God's plan, but then they made him a king, and then if things do go bad, like when they do go bad, because it wasn't God's plan, that whoever was put in that role would have, because it wasn't intended by God, it's not God's plan, would have copped the heat of what happened. It kind of reminds me of like Judas betraying Christ. Like if he didn't do it, it wasn't going to be someone else, or do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sort of goes to the question of foreknowledge and predestination. Is it that God knew that he was going to be bad, or is it that he just happened to be the person that was there at the time? It's hard to know. It's hard to tell. But when the people said or when God was speaking with Samuel about that, should we get a king or not? He said, give them the king, but not because they listen to me, but because they will only listen to you. So pretty much, no matter how much they try, they're still going to be asking for a king. So it's just give them what they want. But in saying that, it doesn't mean that Saul wasn't a appointed by God, because God told Samuel that this Benjamite will come. So he was still appointed by God. But yeah, actually, I have a question for the floor. Do you guys think God changed his mind because of the people? Like when they said, we want a king, even though he said we shouldn't give you king. Do you think that he's able to change his mind?
In case they decide they want a king, like this is what the king has to do. So I think he kind of always there was always kind of in the plan that the people were going to not want to follow God anymore and are going to want to follow their own people, and he was aware, like he was very prepared for that.
Yeah. So there was like room for both.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That's so good. I didn't come here last week, so. Okay. Any other additions, questions?
I have a question to follow up on that. So hypothetically, let's just say there was a different king appointed. Do you think there was a chance in God's plan that it could have went well?
No one knows, to be honest. I don't know. Well, Saul was a good guy. It's not that he was bad, like he was like some bad king that was chosen. Like he actually was humble and he was perfect. Like he looked good to God because he was humble, and he looked good to the people because he was this tall, big guy. He stood out from the crowd. So he was actually a good pick. But it's just, it was his fault that he sort of like became proud and he disregarded God. He didn't listen to him when he said, oh, you have to like annihilate this whole country. And he kept some of the things and things like that. So I don't think a different king would have made a difference. It's just that his character was unfortunately flawed, and we're all prone to it. So.
There's lots of examples in the Bible where the people repent, for example, and God relents from his anger. So is that not changing God's mind in a sense? Maybe not. Maybe it's described that way in the Bible so that we understand it as God changing his mind, but maybe it's not exactly that. But yeah, I think God can change what he was going to do to something else with our prayer or intercession or
Yeah, like when Israel, when Moses was on the mountain, and then when the Israelites made the calf, and he was about to destroy them, and then Moses interceded. He said, "Okay, no, like people are going to look at us bad. We're going to look bad to people because we came out of Egypt, and then the God that took him out of Egypt is now going to kill him. Like, doesn't look good." So after Moses pleading, yes, it's true. But also, upon Paul, I heard him say that even if God doesn't change his mind, it's not bad to think of that like he does change his mind, because it will cause you to pray and for these things to happen, and who knows, we don't really know. Yeah?
That was actually very good, but like in terms of what you were saying about like foreknowledge versus predestination, like personally for me, like I've always had the view that God does have the knowledge beyond everything, so he could see time from past, present, and future. So like even when like he sees these things happening, like he sees like even from the very beginning, like in Genesis, he knew what was going to happen, and yet it was our own free will which led us astray against with Eve eating the apple, and then Adam like disobeying God and blaming everyone, and it just kept happening over and over again. But I think like it was mentioned like a few times, and it's been mentioned in previous talks, the way God works through us. Like he works through the judges, he works, and obviously like not just like Saul, but after Saul, who came? David. And then like even David wasn't perfect. He did sin, and like that was like well known, and obviously he was still like known as important after. And then obviously Solomon as well. He still made mistakes. He still sinned, and that was known. And I think a lot of it like is because God knew like the way God has his way. Like he knew the way to lead to him actually coming into earth, which is like obviously through the Son, and he needed to pave that way. And he knew humans, there's always gonna be a chance they'll fall. There were always gonna be things that would happen, but there also was chances that there would be people, like not just like with the kings, also with the prophets, that would predict his own arrival and what would happen after. And it's just more about like his foreknowledge, the fact that he understood what was needed to be done, and he knew, like, even before they wanted a king, like Veronia said, that there is like the way that he told them, but like they would obviously they might do their own way, but he will like try and work, like he has to try and work with us, because he's like, he tells us to do something and we go against him, but he's like, okay, like what, like, because he already knows that's going to happen, so he's like, okay, what can I do next and next and next. And that's obviously, like, you can see like how much this has happened throughout the Old Testament and even in the New Testament. He literally knew that Judas was going to be the one to betray him, and yet he chose him to be one of the disciples. So it's a brilliant way of showing like God, he knows us, like even like right to now, he knows what we're going to do, but he wants us to be the ones to come to him. Like he wants us to say, oh God, I need you. God, I repent. God, I praise you. Like all these things. That's why he asks a lot of questions for us.
Glory be to God for a minute.
Thanks, Phil, for taking us through 1 Samuel chapter 9. So please join us next week for 1 Samuel chapter 10. Just a couple of announcements before